On this episode, I'm headed up to Seattle's South Lake Union to meet with Doug Fahl and discuss all things VR and 360 video. A local to Seattle, Doug has performed in indie feature films, national television commercials, network television shows, and over 70 theater performances. With his experience, Doug brings a unique perspective to VR and is passionate about helping actors understand the unique nature of acting in 360 and VR. If you're into 360 video or VR, you're not going to want to miss this one. Sitting down with Doug Fahl. We ran into each other last week at the Microsoft Mixed Reality Airlift. We were on the same team. And what was your takeaway from that, just before we get started?
Well, I realized that I could just go into this room full of developers as a designer and fit in and find my place and not be completely out of my element.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised at how quickly we were able to put together this, what seems like a very complicated software application for the HoloLens. We developed a retail inventory system where you could actually look at the shelves and change the items by speaking out the words. And we used Azure Cloud Services to plug into this app so that it could sort of do all that work for us behind the scenes. So I was amazed at how quickly we could get a prototype up and running, and just how many different aspects of design and collaboration and whatnot are required to do something that's project-oriented.
No, I was amazed at how quickly we were able to build that particular app with the natural language processing, the computer vision, as well as the display of the data.
Right.
So,
the UI.
Your background as an actor, as a theatrical actor, as a voiceover actor, singer, motion graphic designer, and now virtual reality designer. How is your background in the sort of non-engineering side of things, more the creative side? How do you combine that with VR?
Well, like you have to learn some of the technical aspects of it. You need to dabble a little bit in Unity and Unreal and coding and back-end kinds of things like that. But a lot of the technical sides of things, the engineering sides, are they're great for building the frameworks that we use, and they can do a lot of stuff with tools that are available already.
Right.
But you're always going to want creatives involved in this, whether they're performing or whether they're designing UIs or models or whatever, to just sort of breathe a little bit of magic or creativity into a project and see things from a different lens than a developer might have.
Right. What other projects are you working on? You had a couple hackathons. Big Bang Billiards is your the virtual reality pool game, billiards in space that you and your team created in the hackathon a couple of years back. What are the projects that you are personally working on right now?
One game that I was kind of working on is this apartment building kind of game that I've prototyped so far. Basically, the idea is that there's a building full of apartments that different characters are living in, and these characters are animated and going about their little stories. But at the beginning of the game, the apartments are kind of all mixed up, maybe outside the building somewhere, and it's a sort of a puzzle game where you have to go into these apartments, listen to the characters' stories, and get clues about where they live in the apartment in relationship to the other characters, and then your job is to put the apartments back in the correct order.
Kind of a reverse Jenga?
Yeah, a little bit like that. It was based on a jigsaw puzzle that I did once, where all the pieces fit together in the same way. And you build these little rooms with a character saying, "Hey, my neighbor to the right is a redhead," and the dog upstairs is barking, or 3 floors up there's a lady drowning in a bathtub or whatever. And so you had to like use the logic to put the puzzle together in the right place. So
that sounds pretty cool.
It's a VR version.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool.
And I don't know if I'll ever finish it or not, but we'll see. I'm also not focused so much on virtual reality development at the moment. I'm starting a YouTube channel, have started, called Augmented Actor, which is focusing on acting tips for actors, but it also has a slant in that it's focused on emerging technologies and where actors can find opportunities to perform inside those technologies, and VR is one of the major things that I focus on. So showing actors techniques for acting in 360 film and doing motion capture and voiceover and that kind of stuff, and playing around with apps like Mindshow and AltSpace to find theatrical performances within AltSpace, or use Mindshow to create your own characters and help you learn improvisational skills and that kind of stuff.
Okay. That's a really interesting point about acting in social VR, right?
Yeah, there's another overlay for Steam called Pluto, which it's just an avatar overlay system where you and your friends can go in and be working on whichever app you're in. You can play a game or work on Tilt Brush or something like that, but you can see your friends working on whatever app they're in. You don't get to see what they're seeing, but you can talk and work at the same time in the same space, and it really gives you a sense that you're in the same room with each other. But I thought it would be a great use to rehearse scenes and do like acting classes remotely with other people, because the avatars are fairly expressive. You can do hand gestures and whatnot, and it's a great place to have to memorize your stuff because you don't have any cheat sheets to work off of. Get up in front of people, perform. You can screen record it, watch yourself back. It's a great learning tool.
Pluto is a local company, and the first time I used Pluto was I was talking to Forrest, one of the founders of the company, and how expressive he was with his hands and his face. I was like, what do you? I was a total newbie to the whole thing, and I thought he had like gloves on his hand or something. But no, these are just the controllers.
Right.
Same controllers I had.
And that's another thing that same thing in Mindshow, you express yourself. You change your character's expressions with a thumb pad. Whichever direction you push, it changes from angry, sad, happy, excited.
Yeah.
And so actors that are going to use these as acting tools, creating films or theater experiences within virtual reality, are going to have to learn how to, at least initially, express themselves, make hand gestures and stuff with their thumbs or controllers. Right. So it's a whole new technique that you got to learn as an actor in order to work in those environments.
How is acting in VR 360 different than traditional acting?
Right. Well, there's a big difference between theater acting, because you want to, theater actor, you project loudly, you're broader in your facial expressions and your movements because you got to play to the back of the house. In film acting, you're much more intimate. The camera's closer. You have to learn how to control all your facial movements and your eyes a lot more. And 360 film kind of combines both of those things. You have much longer takes for each shot in a 360 film because there's no cuts or very few cuts trimmed. So it's like you're on a big stage and you got to learn longer sequences, which is a very theater technique kind of application. But then you still have to be nuanced and control your movements and be very film-like in your performances. So it's a combining of those two skill sets. Also, there's a lot of technical stuff with the camera. You can't be more than 5 feet close to the camera without getting fisheye distorted. And so, there's a little bit of different kinds of acting techniques involved.
Yeah, so I was, Wednesday, I was at a book reading for Peter Rubin's new book, Future Presence.
Right.
And he talked about 360 film and how it's, for directors, it's so much different. But as well, for actors, there's a whole new medium or way of acting that they have to learn.
Yeah, I mean, for one, on a film set, they're doing your close-up or your shot, and you might have an actor or a stagehand off camera reading with you. The director can feed you. Try it this way. Do
so
this.
So what is off camera?
Off camera. So
if
I'm looking at this camera here, the actor is over there, and that's off camera. I direct my gaze to them. I give my performance, and then the camera can kind of zoom in. The director can be over here giving me directions, saying, "Go that way, do this," But in 360, the camera is the observer, and they're in the center of the scene, and you have to have the other actor in the scene. You can't hide somebody behind the camera.
Yeah.
You have to engage with the actor. Your eye lines are different because in 360 the film is distorted. So when I'm looking directly at an actor's eyes, I'm not actually, it doesn't look like it on 360 film.
Interesting.
So you have to kind of gaze off to the right. Both of you do. And you both have to do it convincingly.
Sort of like the paths of an airplane around
Exactly.
the globe.
Right. Yeah.
A straight line isn't.
Exactly.
And a flat map is actually a.
Right. So a director has to sort of be able to establish that in the shot and give direction to the actors so that they know exactly where they're supposed to look. They also have to know where to move and how to get around the camera if they're near the camera, because it's not a straight line past the camera. You have to kind of arc around
it.
it.
Interesting.
And there's also stitching points in the 360 film, because the film wraps around and it has to be stitched. So if you have to learn how to avoid those areas of the set, otherwise you'll have a weird stitchy look inside of you. Plus, you have the film crew that has to light the scene or do all their setup, and then they all have to run and they have to hide behind trees and boxes and rocks and stuff so that they're out of the shot, because it shoots in 360 degrees.
Hide behind props.
So so you as an actor, it's like very much like being on stage at theater in the round. You got an audience all around you, or at least they can look wherever they want. You can't focus a camera on a close-up. You just have to guide them with lighting, guide them with your stare, guide them with your motion, your voice, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things to consider, and it's tricky. And I haven't done a lot of 360 film acting myself, so I'm anxious to get on sets with some people and really learn the ins and outs of it.
Are there any local in Seattle, any groups local that are, or folks, directors who are doing 360?
Yeah, I know of a couple different companies. There's Pixvana down in Fremont, and they're a stitching organization. I mean, like, they create stitching software that does high volume 4K 360 stitching.
Sure.
And they also have a video production team that goes all around the world and films narratives and documentaries and things like that, and then uses their proprietary software to stitch together.
Yeah.
And so I know a few people that work there that I can maybe go join a film shoot sometime. Or whatnot. And then there's just other people that are getting their own 360 cameras. A lot of people have portable ones. They take them to events and they just film things naturally. I don't know if a lot of them are like film directors or whatnot. The other aspect of 360 film that's interesting is how it ties into gaming. You can create VR games with 360 film transitions within the game, or you can place clickable or interactable content around a 360 film that can be used to branch narratives. So you can create a choose your own adventure type story for an audience. I think that we're going to see a lot of advancements in how a story is told from a writing and directing perspective, and letting the audience choose where they want to look, what characters they want to follow. Things like that.
Now, what about virtual reality, acting in virtual reality, or using virtual reality to help actors on green screen sort of situations?
Right. And most films nowadays and television shows use a lot of green screen even when they're just on location, they'll green screen out backgrounds and areas that they can put, skies in and things like that.
Right.
But for an actor, you will still be on green screen sets. You'll just be shot with volumetric equipment, so it won't be just a still screen. It's going to be more of a camera set up all around you, or shooting you from all directions, so that a director can create sort of an avatar version of the actor performing their actions from any different direction.
Interesting.
And then they can manipulate them into a game environment or a 360 film.
Okay.
Place them in that way. Also, there's motion capture, which is where you see the black suits with the little dots, or facial capture, where you have little dots all over your face. And that's also used in film currently and in gaming to animate characters and whatnot. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a big call for that in gaming. But again, it's volumetric, so the captures actors have to learn how to be much more expressive in 3 dimensions rather than just for a front-facing camera. Mm-hmm. And know that their butt is in view as much as their hands.
Sure.
and maybe used. And so, what's Andy Serkis, who does Gollum and
I don't know, but I know
I can't remember
what
his
you're
last
referring
name.
to. Yeah.
He does a lot of that sort of motion capture stuff. So actors there's going to be a need for that, especially in gaming, to create avatars and animatable characters.
Yeah. Do you think there'll be a coming together of video and gaming potentially? If everything is sort of in 3D to begin with. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like so many games are becoming much more cinematic in nature. The way their narratives are told and the cut scenes in between action scenes. And films are kind of gamifying a little bit, televisions too, in the sense that I told you, branching storylines.
Right.
And I do see a convergence of those kind of techniques. I also see a convergence between virtual reality and augmented reality, mixed reality is basically what they're calling it now, where headsets are going to start allowing you to switch seamlessly back and forth between immersive environments and augmented environments.
Sure.
And so I think we're still in the early stages, and people are concentrating on 360 film, and some are concentrating on games, some are concentrating on applications like medical applications and educational applications. And I feel like those are all going to kind of converge into where the user can kind of make their choices about whether they want to see a narrative or jump into a narrative, or the sky's the limit.
Right.
Every great game, even if it's a simple casual game, has some sort of storyline, some sort of character, some sort of through line. And when we get to the point where our games have multiple through lines and our movies have multiple through lines, we're able to choose where we want to go. It's a lot of content to create. And it's like open world games kind of do that already. Fallout 4 is now ported to VR. Skyrim. Those allow you to create your own narratives, but they sort of have an overall storyline that everybody sort of experiences at some point. It's just how you choose to go through it.
Sure.
So there'll still be control, but it's really about learning how to write and direct these pieces for that sort of new paradigm of entertainment.
It's sort of a putting control in the hands of the viewer versus the director or the story person who created the stories. And
still being able to guarantee that they're going to be entertained whichever way they take. You got to be able to surprise them. You still also have to be able to guide them back into the narrative that you want to provide to them.
Right.
Or limit what they can do, where they can focus.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Yeah, a lot of content.
Right.
Is there a VR experience that is just like the best ever?
There's quite a few things that.
What's your favorite?
Every time I see something, I mean, VR is like film. You know, you can see a really great movie, and then you can watch a bunch of other movies and kind of go like, well, I'm over it, nothing new, and then another movie will come out and it's like, wow, that just totally changed everything.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that kind of exponentially with VR as people are trying more things. There's these base rules of VR of like, don't make somebody motion sick and don't do all these things. So people are starting to branch out, break those rules a little bit, and they've learned how to control those things.
Interesting.
So some of the things that I've seen recently that I really enjoyed were the Coco movie, Pixar.
Yeah, I think I've
Yeah, it's an animated film by Pixar, and there is a VR version on the Oculus that is just absolutely amazing. It's just full of content and colorful things from the movie, and you can go to a museum and explore pieces from the movie. You can watch films inside the movie in like an open air back alley in Mexico, and you can take a tram through the city lights, and it's really great, interactive and impressive in terms of the content that can be put in there. There's a game called Moss, which is where you're leading a little mouse through a platformer, but the attention to scale, you're focused on this little third person mouse that you're controlling in this little nature environment, but then all of a sudden a huge deer will pop his head around the corner, and you'll realize how small you are. So things like that just sort of create a element of magic and excitement and a new perspective on.
That's kind of cool. It's not
things.
first person necessarily.
Usually VR is first person kind of.
VR.
Yeah, this is like a platformer, so it's like, but then it plays with distance too. You'll lead this mouse with your controllers up a little hill and through a little tiny hole, and then you have to make him jump over a bridge and crawl down the side and stuff like that. So it's got all the fun of playing a platformer game, like Mario or something, but it's all around you, and you can tap the water with your controller.
Oh, that's cool.
That's great. And it's just gorgeous to look at too. So the graphics are becoming better and better. It's
cool. Okay.
What are some common misconceptions of VR or AR?
Well, funny you should ask. People are kind of negative Nancy's about where VR is going. A lot of people say that it's a passing fad, that there's not a lot of money in it, so big companies aren't going to put a lot of their time and energy into it. But big companies are putting billions of dollars into this technology. I really feel like that it's going to grow into something that is really amazing, and it's going to branch in a lot of different areas, from film to games to what do I want to say? From film to games to empathy building to social connections, medical applications, architecture, education. All those things are going to kind of come together into one big sort of world that we can all go in and experience. And as the form factor gets smaller, as headsets get smaller in form and cheaper, and connection speeds are improved, we're going to see more and more people involved in this, and it's going to explode into something big. So I think people just underestimate where it's going to go. With any new technology, there's going to be a bunch of people that will say, oh, it's going to ruin the world, and we're going to be in a dystopian future where everybody's plugged in and and whatnot. That's a very Ready Player One sort of way of looking at it. It's like you get into virtual reality and you ignore the real world. And I don't feel like that's necessarily going to happen. I think it's going to enhance the way we see things. Culturally, I feel like, there are a lot of people that are afraid that, the surveillance technology of our world, which is already dystopian if you look at it. It could go that way, but I feel like there's so many people involved in it in the early stages that want to prevent it from being a big advertising revenue stream and getting people's eye data and tracking them and stuff like that. Those technologies are going to be implemented and they're going to be used, but I think it's going to be up to us to control the direction that they go. And I feel like with any narrative device, whether it's film or novels or whatever, there are going to be people that will take from their experience and create narratives and experiences that are beyond our human experience.
Yeah.
But it takes playing around with this technology enough to play, to figure out what those things are. And that's where you're creating the magic in VR. That's what really excites me and drives me about being one of the. I like to consider myself a pioneer of VR, even though I don't think I'm really a pioneer at the time. but I'm in at the beginning, playing around with this stuff, and to be able to just create something that so many people can experience, that provides them with a moment of magic, that can make them recall like a beautiful sunset or a serene lake or whatever, those things can happen in VR.
Even like experience it. What parts of the brain does virtual reality activate when you're, flying through the air or trying to learn a new language or something along those lines?
Well, someone, I can't remember where I heard this, but they said when you watch a film and you recall the film later, you remember yourself watching the film. You might remember the screen. You might remember where you were when you watched the film.
Yeah.
But when you remember an experience from virtual reality, it's much more like recalling an actual event in your life.
Right.
You don't picture yourself in it, per se. You picture the experience as if it was a dream or an actual memory. And so that's a very powerful feeling, and that's the same sense that you get when you are inside a virtual reality experience, is that you are there with the person that is across the other country. It's not just looking at them on a screen, you're in the same space with them. You can move around them, talk to them, hear them whisper, and that's such a, it makes that technical pixelization and code and all those things that are man-made, computerized stuff seem like a real experience.
Yeah.
And that's the power of VR.
So, pull that back to movies in 360 or in virtual reality, stories in virtual, when you've got actors, are you going to remember being in that environment with those actors? It's like, I didn't watch the movie, I was in the movie. I mean, how does that?
I think 360 film, it's still film, so you still can't interact.
Necessarily, yeah.
There might be ways to gamify that, and like branching storylines and whatnot, where you can talk to the actors, maybe with the Lewis Azure stuff, they might be able to respond to you
right.
if an actor recorded 700 utterances. But I think you'll still experience it. 360 film as a film, but you get to, because you get to choose where you focus and what you focus on, it's going to feel much more like an experience than watching a film. Right. So I think of 360 film like watching a play, in the sense that you can, in film you're directed every step of the way by the director and the camera angles, where you look, what's important to look at. And with the play, you get that with lighting and with voice and movement and whatnot, but you're free as an audience member to stare at the person in the background, or look at how they're doing the set changes, or whatever you want,
Right.
And the hope is that you stay focused on the important parts of the narrative.
Sure.
But that's how 360 film is going to feel much more like you're in the presence of actors in the real world, like they're on a theater stage rather than a film stage.
Can you recommend any resources, whether they're books, videos, or otherwise?
Lots of things. YouTube is a great resource for learning pretty much anything you want. But a lot of VR content on YouTube is centered around like, hi, I'm twitching this game and that kind of stuff. Not a lot of people are teaching you how to create virtual reality stuff yet, but it'll be there. Udemy has a lot of courses that are now being sold every week at $10.99 instead of $100.99.
Yeah, right.
Lynda.com. If you're in Seattle and you have a library card, you can get all the Lynda.com tutorials for free.
Oh, really?
Just by entering your library card information in. So that's a great resource. Going to virtual reality meetups, especially in larger cities like Seattle, those are great places to network and meet people, and just asking everybody what they do, how they do it, their process is really helpful. Lately, I haven't read a lot of narrative kind of things or even non-narrative books on virtual reality because I've been so focused on doing the stuff. But, like Neil Stephenson wrote Snow Crash several years ago, which is all about a virtual reality future in which people are delivering pizzas and doing all kinds of stuff like that in virtual reality. Yeah, Snow Crash is really good. Everybody's into Ready Player One now. I kind of feel like that's a very focused dystopian view of where virtual reality goes, and it's also a very nostalgic gamer 80s, 90s reference kind of thing.
Fair enough.
And I think it's just one world that we could potentially find ourselves in.
Yeah.
Just like Star Wars and Star Trek are different takes on space. We're going to have so many different takes on virtual reality.
Well, and speak to where you see VR going, sort of the, what is your vision of the technology?
I think everything in my life, I think the underlying theme, the thing that makes me excited about any new technology or any vocation is that I want to create magic. I want to entertain, and I want to make something humorous and magical and fun and new out of something that isn't there already.
Yeah.
So acting fulfills that, motion graphics fulfill that, video production, all those things. And VR seems like the biggest platform for that. It's also an empathy builder, and it's a social connection. People can come together and feel like they're in the same space with each other. Pretty soon, we won't need to set up an interview like this. We can do it within virtual reality, record it, put it out there.
Actually, my next interview is going to be in virtual reality.
Oh, yeah.
And I have one lined up.
That's great.
So it'll be really interesting.
And I think I'm going to try doing that too.
Yeah.
But that's where I see it going, is like the form factor is going to get smaller. Hopefully within 5 or 10 years we'll have like sunglasses kind of virtual reality headsets that we can put on, and they'll be untethered, and you won't need an expensive computer. Everybody will have them. So like Facebook is ubiquitous right now, almost everybody's on it and connected that way, but we're going to see a much broader connection, more empathy building, and the entertainment is just going to go through the roof, I think.
What keeps you inspired? What are you looking forward to in the near future as it relates to VR?
Well, like I said, I like to create magic. I like to create entertainment, and I guess I'm kind of selfish in a certain way. Is like I work on projects for myself. I'll build my own website, so I'll get really involved in web development, and then I'll build my own videos so I can make a music video for myself, and that's where I really like to explore all these different softwares and techniques and whatnot.
Okay.
So when I jumped into somebody else's VR experience and experienced that magic, I said I want to create magic for myself, to jump in and play around with. So any direction I can go where I'm making something that looks cool, that surprises people, that connects people together, that's fun to do, is going to inspire me. And I'm such a tech geek in terms of, if I see a new piece of software or a plugin or something that somebody has that does this cool thing, even if it costs lots of money, I want to invest in that and then learn everything I can about it. Even if I never really use it, I like to just absorb all these different techniques and technologies. So that kind of thing excites me. I'd love to work and make my living in VR. Right now I'm just sort of finding a place. Yeah, right. And so we'll see what opportunities are available, But I think that most people forge their own paths who are successful. So
I think
what we're trying to do.
That's exactly, and I think that's what you have to do at this early stage.
of the game, and no one. We're still trying to understand the questions we want to be asking with the technology, much less the answers. Finding your own way is that's going to be the innovation that will carry us forward. So, well, cool. Thanks so much, Doug. I really appreciated the conversation and look forward to keeping up with Augmented Actor and seeing where that goes.
Yeah, cool. Thanks,
All right.